What's good YouTube? It's your boy Mir, and today I'm bringing you my guide for Ultimate Viessa. Since Viessa is a character with multiple build paths, I'll be trying to cover each one so you can optimize and tweak the build to your liking. Just a few things before we start. As of recording this video, we hit 400 subscribers, so I just want to thank everyone who's been subscribing in these last, 2-3 weeks. I really have no words for the support you guys are showing me. Again, thank you so much. And tomorrow I'll be live when the maintenance ends for Ultimate Valby, working on my build for her. So if you want a sneak peek into what will be in the video, hopefully to come tomorrow as well, stop by the stream. I'll pretty much be live all day. The Twitch is on the screen now, and it'll also be in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So today I'm actually going to start with Viessa's weapons because she has quite a few that actually synergize really well with her. So first is the Secret Garden. The unique ability for this gives you 17% firearm attack and 17% skill power. And you can also get additional stacks of the firearm attack and skill power, up to 3, every time you pop your ult. And with one of the builds I'll show you, you can have 100% uptime on this, as long as you keep proccing the trigger rate. These two maxed out go to 15%. I'm pretty sure this goes to 50%. But I just didn't have the time to farm out 5 of these to show you guys. But Secret Garden is definitely one pick. The weapon I continue to preach about, and I'm actually going to make a video about, the MirDxsu's Devotion. Its unique ability reduces defense, which just allows all of Viessa's skills that she's spamming to do more damage. At max, this goes to 30%. So this weapon's insane. I'm going to keep saying that. Her next weapon, the Clairvoyance, reduces chill resistance. It reduces chill resistance from enemies that are hit with this weapon, and the longer you use the beam, it also gains action speed. And I think at max this goes to 40%, so it's a pretty big like defense down, similar to like MirDxsu's Devotion. So this weapon is really good for mobbing, and I had a reactor with this on it, but we'll talk about that reactor in a little bit later. And then finally, you can also use the Blue Beetle. The unique ability for this weapon gives you skill crit hit rate that goes to 30%. I believe you get 30% skill crit hit rate from this. I don't know if the trigger rate or duration goes up, but that's a really big crit hit bonus for Viessa, because all of her skills already have super high crit rate. Like I think at base it's maybe 25% or 30%. So she has quite a few weapons. Just make sure that you get a reactor with the mounting for the weapon you want to choose. If you want my recommendations, I would say MirDxsu's Devotion is probably just the all-around version, or the all-around option. The Clairvoyance is really good for mobbing. And then against bosses, the Blue Beetle and the Secret Garden are probably the weapons you will want to choose. So the choice is yours, which one you want to build. None of them are crazy, like damage wise, except for MirDxsu's Devotion. So, it doesn't really matter. And with Viessa, you're using her abilities majority of the time anyway. So yeah, that's it for her weapons. Let's go ahead and talk about the builds. So for the main build I'm using with Viessa, I decided to go with Absolute Zero as my Descendant mod. What this does, it removes the slow effect from your abilities and instead adds a dot that stacks up over time and also synergizes really well with our component set. For the mods, we're using double cooldown, just so we can spam her abilities. We're using Focus on Chill, Battle of Stamina. The reason for using this instead of another HP mod is Viessa's ultimate ticks every 2 seconds. So as long as you have 6.1 seconds, you get an extra tick of damage. So I didn't want to use an entire duration mod to take up this slot. You don't really need an insane amount of HP when you're just killing ads. So I went with Battle of Stamina. But if you feel like you're not tanky enough, you can like use Stim Accelerant or just increase HP. The choice is yours. Next, we're going with Skill Range. And then we're going with Quad Crit mods. Emergency measures for crit rate, front lines for crit damage and crit rate, pure crit rate and pure crit damage. And then for your support tech, you'll want to use MP Collector, because you'll be spamming your abilities a lot. So you don't usually run out of MP, but MP conversion does take away 15% of your max MP, so you just want to make sure that you can get that back. Now, a few things that you can switch around on this build. Obviously, we already talked about the HP, but you can also change focus on chill to chill master, which will give you the most amount of damage out of all of the chill mods. The next highest damage mod is actually chill specialist, and then focus on chill actually gives you the least amount of damage. But the reason we're using focus on chill instead of any of the other two is because of the additional cooldown. If you're using the Transcendent mod that we're using on the bossing build, Cold Bloodedness, you don't need focus on chill because this already gives you so much skill, cost, and cooldown reduction. But that's an option you have. So most damage is skill master. Next will be focus on, or not focus, chill specialist, but I wouldn't really recommend that because you get no benefit with second most damage. You might as well use chill master. But then focus on chill is the least amount of damage, but you also get the utility of your cooldown. Another thing, when you're building this, you only need 3 of these triangle polarities. I will go with the crit rate one, crit damage, and then the crit damage. And then in this other slot, you can use a, what's it called? A rutile slot or polarity. And this will allow you to use like a spear and shield to give you more skill power, amplification control for more range and more shield, more duration, more defense, you know. So this is more of a utility slot. But I decided to go with damage instead because I like seeing higher numbers. That's pretty much it. But the smarter move probably is to go with a rutile polarity. That's another choice that you can make. But that's pretty much all the choices for this build, aside from the Transcendent mods. So there are a few that she has. Cold Cohesion gives you 5 of her passive that like circle around you and shoot enemies that get close. This one's actually pretty good. It doesn't change any of your polarity, or not polarities, your like singular. I'm pretty sure they stay fusion tech. So if you have a tech reactor, you could use this. Or not a tech reactor, a fusion reactor, you could use this instead. Cold Snap Watch allows you to put down like an AoE similar to Valby. That's pretty much it. It kind of turns Viessa into Valby with all her abilities. Not all her abilities, just her third ability. Hypothermia, a lot of people like this, and it's like absolute zero with the dots. I believe it changes your abilities as well, but most of Viessa's abilities one shot, so this kind of makes this kind of useless. Like the only time you would need dot damage is against bosses, really. And not Cold Cohesion, Cold Bloodedness is definitely the best mod for bossing. So I wouldn't even recommend this, but if you wanted to use it, you can. And then this mod's kind of just ass, so I wouldn't really recommend using it at all. But that's it for the main build. Let's get into her boss build real quick. So for her bossing build, we're using Cold Bloodedness, of course. This reduces your skill cost and skill duration. And also, it removes your speed from your 2. And you get all these buffs instead that you can see on screen. For the bossing build, she's not really that good soloing bosses. She can solo pyro. I mean, you can do devour and things like that. I just wouldn't use Viessa to solo bosses. Instead, using her in fights where you can play as a team or fight as a team, the slowdown that she does will help people who can't really aim hit the boss's weak point. So it's kind of a utility, and she just does a lot of damage. Similar to the main build, we have double cooldown. We're using Battle of Stamina for the same reason, the little bit of duration, so this gets an extra tick. Chill Master this time for the max amount of damage. The 4 crit mods again. We're using Spear and Shield for defense and a little bit more skill power to help with our survivability, and we just do more damage. And then for your Arc Tech, we're using Dangerous Ambush. So when landing a skill, when the enemy isn't targeting you, which is, you know, in boss fights, unless it's if you're me, you're always getting targeted, but most people don't get targeted as much as I do, so you'll always get this 24%. And then when you break a weak point and the boss becomes immobilized, then you also get 49%. So in total, you're getting like 73% skill power, which she has such high skill modifiers that when you add this much skill power on top of it, her Blizzard and things start hitting for 1,000,000 damage. So as far as things you can switch in this build, if you have a two-piece annihilation set, which we'll talk about in the gear section, you can get rid of Battle of Stamina and put on any of the other HP mods we talked about before. This will definitely give you way more survivability in a fight. But since it's a group fight, you're not always getting targeted, and if you die, someone can revive you. So it's kind of selfish, but you're doing a lot of damage. That is something you can change. And then like we talked about before, you don't need all 4 of these crit mods. I just like seeing big numbers. But you can also replace this with a Rutile Polarity and put in, like, you can have a duration mod or a range mod to help. But that's pretty much it for her boss build, and you know, all the things you can change and optimize how you want to. And then finally, I just have this little XP farm build. You know, if you do Bunny Cave a lot and you level up a lot of weapons, I personally don't like using Bunny in the Bunny Cave unless I'm soloing, because obviously you have to. But if I'm doing it with somebody to level up weapons, I prefer to use Viessa because she can just cover that top spawn with her Blizzard with 100% uptime from cold-bloodedness. And it's just way easier for me than spamming jump on my keyboard the whole time, since you get banned for using macros and things like that. That's pretty much it for all of Viessa's builds. So let's go ahead and get into her gear. So depending on what Transcendent mod you're using will depend on which skill power boost ratio you'll want on your reactor. For absolute zero, you'll want singular. So if you're using the main build that I had, you'll want singular as your boost ratio. And then for the bossing build, you'll want fusion so that you can do as much damage as possible with your Blizzard, because that's like your main source of damage in your boss fight. Like I mentioned before, I had a singular reactor. As you can see, I no longer have a singular reactor. I was testing the bossing build to make sure I wasn't, you know, lying to y'all about the build actually being good in a boss fight, and I ended up deleting it. I swear it was saved, but I guess it wasn't. But I had a clairvoyance on there, and it was pretty good reactor. But anyways, I would recommend getting a clairvoyance or a devotion for your absolute zero build as the mounting. But like, whatever weapon you want to use, just make sure you get the correct mounting. As far as subsets go, you can also get duration here, and you can remove the HP mod with duration on your build. That's a choice you have. But I decided to go with chill skill power because it affects all my skills, and then skill crit rate because that affects all my skills as well. Another thing you can get is, like I said, duration. You can also get, like, if you're using absolute zero, you can get singular, or if you're using any of the other ones, you can use tech or fusion, or not tech. Is it tech? It is tech. Tech or fusion. It's up to you. But remember, you just want one thing with duration so that your ability can tick one extra time if you're not using a duration mod. Next, for her artifact, or not artifacts, external components, I recommend the 4 polar knight set. You don't have to use this. You can also use 2-piece polar, 2-piece annihilation. This will also give you the duration you need for it to proc extra time. And then you can, again, change the HP mod out, take it off your reactor, whatever the case is. Just make sure you have one instance of duration. But I decided to go with this set because what absolute zero does is it applies the frostbite stack that we talked about before. And when you do, you get 1.7% crit hit damage, or firearm crit hit damage, and then 6% skill crit hit damage that stacks up to 10 times at a 30% chance. And when defeating an enemy inflicted with frostbite, inflicts additional damage equivalent to 12.2% of the enemy's max HP on enemies within 2.5 meters. So I just prefer this set, but again, you can use 2-piece of this, 2-piece annihilation. You can also use 4-piece slayer, which I don't have, but that set will give you more ammo. It'll make your skills cost a little bit more, but it also gives you 26% skill power, which on Viessa scales her damage even higher. Also, quickly, I don't know if I mentioned this in the build section, but you don't want to use skill power modifier on Viessa unless you're using like hypothermia, because I believe that's the one that lowers your skill power modifiers. But all the other ones, her skill power modifiers are insanely high, so adding skill power modifier on top of that gives you less damage than if you were to just add more skill power. Let's go, I've completed research. But that's it for how to build and optimize your Viessa. If you have any further questions, leave them in the comments. I try to reply to everybody, if I can, you know. I don't really have much to say at the end of this video. Again, I just want to thank everybody for subscribing recently. My last video did, like, it might be at like 30,000 views now, which I don't even know how that's possible. So I appreciate everybody that watched that video and supported that video. If you want to see the video I'm talking about, you know, link will be in the cards. My gear guide also appeared when we first started talking about gear, so if you want to go back in the video and take a look at that, you can. The choice is yours. But that's pretty much it for me, man. Hope to see y'all in my stream tomorrow. Again, gotta plug that. But that's it. Peace.